I get it, you're staring at a list of gaming rigs, wondering if any of them will actually fit your desk, your budget, and the games you want to crush without ending up with a pricey paperweight. The fear of splurging on a machine that looks great on the spec sheet but stalls on a Night-O-Fell-Living Dead marathon is real, and it's why I spent a few evenings digging through forums, watching build videos, and even talking to a couple of people who already have a Thermaltake Versa on their shelf. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So, does the Thermaltake LCGS Versa u2660TS deliver on the promises that a 32GB DDR5 RTX 5060T rig makes? In plain English, it's a compact tower that tries to squeeze high-end performance into a space that'll actually fit under a typical 27-inch monitor. If you've ever tried to thread a full-size tower through a cramped apartment doorway, you'll appreciate that the chassis is deliberately narrow, yet it still manages a 240mm liquid-cooled loop and a full-length PSU that keeps the cables tidy. The upside is a clean look that doesn't scream gaming rig the moment you walk into a living room. The downside is that you have to be a bit strategic about how you arrange peripherals and monitors because the front panel only offers a single USB-style 3.0 port, a couple of USB 2.0 jacks, and a headphone/mic combo. If you rely heavily on multiple external drives or a high-speed USB 3.1 dock, you'll need to reach around the back of the case or add a hub. Let's talk about who will actually benefit from this machine. If you're a mid-range gamer who plays titles like Elden Ring, Apex Legends, or Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p or 1440p and you want high frame rates without cranking the graphics settings to the max, the Versa hits a sweet spot. The Intel Core Ultra 7265KF paired with the RTX 5060T gives you enough horsepower to keep up with 144Hz monitors, and the 32GB of DDR5 at 6,000 metric tons per second means you won't be swapping out RAM when you open a dozen browser tabs while you're waiting for a match to load. The closed-loop liquid cooling does a decent job keeping the CPU temps in the mid-70s Celsius under sustained load, which translates to quieter fans during long raid sessions. For streamers, the extra RAM and the ability to run OBS alongside a game without choking the system is a tangible win. Now, who should walk away? If you're hunting for 4K ultra-high refresh gaming with ray tracing cranked to max, you'll hit a wall. The RTX 5060T, while capable, is a step below the RTX 3070 class cards that truly shine at 4K. You'll see decent ray-traced effects, but you'll be forced to dial down resolution or turn off some of the more demanding features to stay smooth. Likewise, if you're a content creator who relies on GPU-accelerated rendering for 8K video, the GPU's 8GB of VRAM might feel limiting after a few weeks of intensive projects. In those scenarios, you'd be better off spending a bit more for a higher-tier graphics card and perhaps a larger chassis that can accommodate better cooling. The practical strengths become evident the moment you plug it in and fire up a game. The first thing I noticed was how quickly the system boots into Windows 11 under 15 seconds to the desktop, thanks to the 2TB NVMe M.2 drive. Load times in Valorant and Fortnite were practically instantaneous, and the SSD's capacity gave me room for the OS, a handful of games, and a growing library of mods without constantly juggling space. The RGB memory strips are subtle, they add a little flair without turning your workstation into a nightclub, which is a nice middle ground for people who game but also work from home. On the flip side, the compact chassis does impose a thermal ceiling. While the 240mm radiator handles day-to-day loads admirably, I did notice that during a 30-minute marathon of Red Dead Redemption 2 at high settings, the GPU temperatures nudged up into the low 80s Celsius. The fans ramped up noticeably, creating a low-level hum that some might find distracting during quiet moments. It's not a catastrophic overheating issue, but it's a reminder that the Versa trades a bit of raw cooling headroom for its sleek silhouette. If you plan to overclock the CPU or push the GPU beyond stock frequencies, you should expect the fans to spin louder or consider adding an extra case fan if you're comfortable opening the side panel. Another practical consideration is upgrade flexibility. The full-length PSU is a nice touch because it means you won't have to wrestle with a cramped power supply when you swap out a graphics card, but the motherboard layout follows the Intel B860 chipset's standard dimensions, which limits you to the current generation of CPUs. In other words, if you think you'll want to upgrade to a future Intel or AMD processor down the line, you'll likely need to replace the entire system. For most gamers who plan to keep a rig for 3 to 4 years, that isn't a deal breaker, but